Hi, I'm Janine Kavanagh, and I'd like to tell you about some of the work my colleagues and I have been doing to try and answer this question: who are the volcanologists? So I thought we'd start with just some context and motivation for this study. This comes from a well-documented diversity crisis in geosciences and discrimination related to gender identity, ethnicity, sexual orientation, religion, physical ability, and socioeconomic background, and from a recognition that the intersectionality of these different factors causes additional challenges. There's lots of literature existing about this in geosciences. We've given some examples here if you'd like to do some of your own reading, and there'll be additional references later on in the talk as well. So what we were trying to do was answer a few key questions, or at least start to have a look at what the data is to be able to look into this in one particular focus for volcanology. So what is going on in volcanology? As far as we're aware, there's no international study that has yet focused on equality, diversity, inclusion in volcanology. And so our aim was to present and analyse what the current data is and identify any gaps in that data, to raise awareness of any issues that might be going on in volcanology, and to make some recommendations about how we can move EDI forwards in volcanology. So in terms of our methodology, we made data requests to organisations which have a volcanology focus. So this was IAVC, which is part of IAGG, and the AGU, in particular the Volcanology, Geochemistry and Petrology section, and EGU's Geochemistry, Mineralogy, Petrology and Volcanology division. We also contacted the volcanology journals, and from Elsevier, it was the Journal of Volcanology and Geothermal Research who gave us some data, and from Springer, Bulletin of Volcanology. We also conducted an ethics-approved survey to gather data about experiences and witnessed accounts of discrimination in volcanology in people's work and in their study. And we advertised this on our personal Twitter accounts, and we sent an email to the volcanologists listserv. So now on to a little bit about our results. So first, looking at the membership data, we have three main points about this data. So the data is restricted to gender identity, career stage, and geographic location. We found no information about ethnicity, sexual orientation, religion, physical ability, or socioeconomic background in the data sets. An important point is the different ways that organisations ask individuals to state their gender identity. So IAVC, you have the option to select either male or female, and you have to select one of these. With EGU, we have male, female, or other, or prefer not to say. And AGU has several different categories: male, female, non-binary, prefer to self-describe, and prefer not to say. So all the data that we have looked at trying to compare these things is taken in this context. It's also important to consider patterns in subgroups within the data sets. For example, looking at trends related to career stage. For AGU, these are students and early career researchers. In EGU, they're called early career scientists. And IAVC does not ask specifically about career stage. Here's a table summarising the data that we collated. And I'll just draw your attention to a few key points here. So if we look at the bulk data, which are the underlined rows there with the purple arrows, you can see that the percentage of female and male and other categories of gender identity are much higher male proportion. However, if you look at a subset of these data and look only at the early career researchers and students, and then it's quite a different trend, and the balance of male and female is closer. But however, if you look at the non-student population, particularly for AGU, then actually there's a much higher proportion of males in these groups. We were also able to look at the gender identity data for different countries around the world for the IAVC membership datasets. Globally, there is a clear trend that there are more men than women volcanologists, and we included a zoom over Europe so you can see what the trends are like there in more detail. We had a look at public data on the names of award winners for the major volcanology awards, going back from the date they were first awarded. And so we've plotted those according to the seniority of the award and the total number of recipients, and the first year that it's awarded to a male and the first time it was awarded to a female. And the membership data that we presented before gives some good contextual information upon which we can compare this gender identity data. Some of the data we've looked at goes back over many years, and so we've been able to also look at the last 10 to 5 years to see what the recent trends are like for awards in volcanology. It's very clear that the proportion of female recipients decreases the more senior the medal awarded, and recent trends show little improvement. The IABSE Thoramson Award is the most senior medal given by IABSE, and it's unique in never having a female recipient. So finally, I'll tell you briefly about the results of our discrimination survey. So we sent a survey around asking people to share an occasion where they've either witnessed or experienced discrimination in their work or study within volcanology. And we said we would use these accounts to help raise awareness of the challenges certain individuals and groups face in volcanology. All the survey data is anonymized, and we had 128 responses, and full transcripts of those anonymized accounts are included in the supplementary materials in our preprint. We categorized the accounts from the respondents to create a word cloud, and the most common forms of discrimination that were described related to sexism, related to things that were happening on fieldwork, related to bullying, and also a toxic culture. So finally, just a quick slide on looking forwards. We think that there are 4 main points that need to be taken into account. The first is about awareness, so acknowledging that we have a problem in terms of equality, diversity, and inclusion in volcanology. Also commitment, so organisations and journals need to openly commit to EDI core values, develop action plans, code of conduct, guidelines, things like this. We need to take action, so organisations, journals, conference organisers, for example, need to make actions aiming for representation of all groups, and also collecting data which helps us to measure trends. And finally, reflection, and that everyone has a role in creating better volcanology community. Thanks for your time.